we're going to revisit some of the words that AK said in the season-ending press conference and what they could continue to mean for the offseason for the Chicago Bulls. Also, it's Sunday, so it's Mailbag Day. This episode is going to mainly be built around your voicemails. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Terry Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. And I want to start off with some words from AK, right? And, two direct quotes from AK, and we're going to jump off from that, right? He said this: I said numerous times today, this group, something doesn't work. I have to find ways to find a group that's going to make improvements. We've done it for a couple of years now, and it hasn't worked. This was on April 20th in the season-ending press conference. He says, everything is on the table. I'm going to look at the totality of this group. The group hasn't worked. There's a lot of great things in certain individual players and a lot of young guys who took a step forward, and it's positive, but in totality, as a group, it didn't work. So I'm going to have to find these answers in the offseason. Now, with that said, so far, the offseason for the Bulls has been going on for a while now. The NBA season hasn't ended yet, right? We don't have a champion crowned yet. And the Bulls have made an overhaul to their coaching staff, right? So, is that part, how big of a portion of that is finding the right combination of group? You have to have the right coaches, right, that you feel confident is going to get the best out of whatever you have there. And so, AK, that may be what he's doing here. But then you got to look at the other words of it, is that this group doesn't work. He said that phrase probably about 3 times in just that quote that I read, that small snippet of a much longer press conference. And in asking yourself, how much of this roster is going to change? How much overhaul should we expect for the Chicago Bulls? I think that's a fair question to ask this offseason. We know that the players that we have in question, right? Zach LaVine, it seems like the Bulls are focused on trading Zach LaVine. And that's not to say that Zach is the problem, because he's not. We actually have a voicemail that I'm going to go in further in that in. He's not, but you have to find out something to do with that or whatever you're going to do, right? DeMar DeRozan, his contract extension is another big question here. Patrick Williams as well, even though at 22 years old, I don't see AK moving on from Patrick Williams, but I'm not going to. If you say everything's on the table, right? Andre Drummond is all but gone in free agency, I think. I think that the Bulls realize that he's, played on the vet minimum for the last, 4 years of his career, the last 2 of that being with the Chicago Bulls. So he's going to have to try to figure out, if Andre Drummond's probably going to get more money than the veteran minimum. I said mid-level, so he's played on the vet minimum for the last 4 years of his career. So he's probably going to be able to get more than that, especially from a team that's either desperate or needs some depth there. Philly's probably another option to probably play Drum a little bit more, right? On top of just not playing a lot with the Chicago Bulls, on top of everything else there. So Drum's probably one that's gone. Torrey Craig has a player option. We'll see what he does with that. Javonte Green, the Bulls got to clear some serious cap space overall if they just want to, to see how flexible that they can be. And then you have, other trade candidates, like, do the Bulls decide to go ahead and pull the trigger on Alex Caruso to get more assets back after trading a lot of draft assets? Lonzo Ball's another option there. But between the wave and stretch, career-ending injury exception, there's a lot of different options out there. We got Lonzo on podcast saying he's going to be ready to go. But again, the Bulls got to look at everything in totality. And so for a roster that's mainly stayed the same, the roster of the Bulls has mainly stayed the same for 3 years. Going into a time where now you said that you gotta find some difference. You gotta be willing to go through a facelift. Do the Chicago Bulls have to be willing to do? Is that what pieces stay? And when you hear AK say things like everything is on the table, even Bulls fans that say crazy things like we should trade Kobe White, I don't believe that. I think Kobe and Io, they're on reasonable contracts. You keep those guys unless you're getting a surefire superstar, which we know the Bulls typically aren't the type of team that makes those type of trades. So it's going to be this offseason, as we continue to watch, it's just going to be one that we have to continually look at and see if the Bulls are going to do something outside the realm of what we've seen over the last few years. And, I've said it before as well that, as many Bulls fans have the mindset of, well, they're not going to do anything because they haven't done anything. the front office has earned that, right? They've earned that view from the fans because they ain't done shit. They continue to not do shit. I don't know why they don't do shit, but and there's been legitimate reasons over the course why, that first year you went over through a whole change. You're not going to do that every offseason. But now we're at the point where, okay, it's about time to get creative again. And I love hearing, the one thing that stood out to me as well in that same press conference from AK was him saying, we got to get back to what we did the first year we were here. And that is they went out and were extremely aggressive about trying to find different routes and avenues for the Chicago Bulls. And so, we'll see. The Chicago deserves a better team out there. I think we all know that, right? And we all try to look at the positive side once the season starts. Not all. Some Bulls fans, and Steve-O's my guy, but Steve-O's fed up with this team as well, right? Until they actually start winning. But you got to look at like just the teams in your own city. Ryan Poles with the Chicago Bears has not rested on his laurels at all, right? Has continually every offseason been aggressive, either through draft or trades or whatever else. He's been aggressive. The Chicago Sky in your own city had a former finals MVP in Kalia Copper, and they looked at it and said, we aren't going to be able to get back to that type of level while she's on this contract. Keep in mind, a max level contract they had literally just gave her a few months prior and said, yeah, let's go ahead and move her, right? Went in, moved her, made subsequent moves after that they went from no draft picks in the first round to 2 in the top 10, and they have set themselves on a nice path going forward. So, you have to be aggressive as a front office in professional sports. And the more aggression that you have and that you're willing to get a little bit more creative and not kind of attach yourselves to just a single vision, you can find yourself more flexibility. And so, this is the last offseason of hope I have for this Bulls team. It really is. This is the last offseason of hope I have. And after this point, it's like come on now. What are we doing? What are we doing here? But so hopefully, this continues for the Bulls, and it could all start at the NBA draft, man. It really could all start at the draft. I know I didn't do any draft coverage yesterday. We'll get back to draft coverage on Monday. There are a couple more prospects that I want to look at that's more towards the end of the first. Even some wings, some power forwards, maybe even a point guard or two that I want to start taking a look at as well, just so we can have that comprehensive list. And we'll see where the route that the Bulls go, man. We'll see where they go. But I just wanted to get that off and talk about that a little bit. Some serious changes needed here, guys. And AK, I'm not going to say this is the last chance he gets for the ownership group, because I think AK is going to be here for quite a while. But for my own personal reasons, my own personal hope, this is kind of the last offseason I'm going into this with, all right, a little bit of faith in AK. A little bit of faith. It's been less and less every year that AK has come here. But I got a little bit of faith left in AK. Let's see what he can bring this offseason, man. And we'll see what happens now, especially that we do know that Mark Eversley is going to be staying. Now that we know he's not going to be going over to be GM of the president of the Pistons. So this is the last time where I'm really looking at this group and giving some hope to them. And we'll see what happens in that. Like the moving up in the East is not going to be easy at all, man. The East, when you look at this East team, man, it's really, really deep, man. And so the Bulls are going to have a fight ahead of them. Like they're not getting anywhere close to the Boston Celtics this offseason, nowhere close to the Knicks this offseason. The Bucks, the Cavs, the Magic, the Pacers, the Heat. These are all teams that are clearly above the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. The 76ers, as long as they have Maxey and Embiid, I'm probably going to put above the Bulls as well. But, they have so many roster spots that they're going to have open at the end of the season. I guess we'll see what comes of that. But, you just always got to keep being able to reinvent yourself while still staying true to some things. And Bulls just got to figure it the hell out, man. We'll see if they can. All right, let's get into the voicemails for today. This one's from Larry.
What up, Hayes? This is Larry calling back in. Sorry about that last voicemail. You can trash that if it sounds bad. I know there's a lot of road noise there. But what I was calling to say is I heard Dunked On Nate Duncan talk about the free agent centers that were available, and I think Andre Drummond came up as the third best available center, period. I think in his list, which is real concerning for us using any type of backup center on the free agent market. If Adama isn't going to be good enough, or if we can't, if we decide to go in another direction in the draft, our backup center position is going to be tough. But we already got something bad with Vooch. And the other piece is with Zach LaVine, which is something else I was thinking about, is if he's not traded by the time the draft hits and he has to go into the season, that is going to be a tough pill for him to be able to try to rebuild his value. I mean, it's essentially, you got a raise from your bosses. They, you're not producing like they thought you were to. They've been trying to get you transferred for over a year, and nobody wants to take you, but you need to still stay there and work in the office. You like your coworkers, but your bosses want you gone, and they would gladly fire you or lay you off if they could, but they can't. And it's kind of going to be tough to like, okay, now go out there and try to do your best to, help us get you transferred, because that's really what we want. We know you don't want to be here, and we don't want you here for real. Nothing personal, but that's what this is. But that's still going to be a hard thing for him to try to do mentally. But hopefully by the draft, this happens. And I'm just hoping that they don't cave and give DeMar a 3-year deal. All right. Appreciate you guys. All right.
Yeah, the writing is pretty much on the wall that Andre Drummond's gone. I think when you look at the other centers in this free agent class, the fact that, like I said, Drum's played on the vet minimum for the last handful of years, the fact that the Bulls, until they do make a significant move, don't have any real true type of cap space, it's going to be difficult to keep. Now, as far as Zach coming back, I guess so. Like, at the end of the day, if the Bulls cannot trade Zach LaVine, then him coming back to this team is just business. He's going to have to come back. He's going to have to try to increase his value. Is it the ideal situation? No, it's not ideal at all. I think for either parties, especially if the Bulls are like it seems from the outside looking in, that they have moved on from Zach LaVine, just not officially because he's still on the roster. If that ends up being the case, you got to move on. Like, you just have to move on. So we'll see what ends up coming of that. We'll see what the Bulls have in store for the future of Zach LaVine. And if Zach ends up having to come back to this roster and has to play to increase his value, he's going to have to suck it up, lock in, and get it done. Because that if he ultimately doesn't want to be in Chicago, that's the best route to get him up to get him to where he wants to be, is playing well to eliminate a lot of those other questions that are around him. But we'll see what happens with the Bulls, man, this offseason. I do think that Zach LaVine would have probably been traded at the trade deadline if it wasn't for that surgery. But that's my own speculation. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one's from Vaughn.
What's up, Hayes? This is Vaughn. So, been thinking about the draft a lot, and I'm starting to think, I guess I already thought this, but the Bulls need to really prioritize getting a big wing and obviously, a center. The thing is, with a lot of those centers, it seems like the ones outside of Alexander Shaw and Donovan Clingan will probably be top 5 picks or something like that. So a lot of the other centers seem more centered around, 15 to 22 range, and might be a reach for us. So I feel like taking a big wing, number 11, might be what they should do. I think players like Dalton Connect have kind of risen really fast lately, so I don't necessarily see him being available at our pick, even though it is possible. But, players like Matas Buzelis or Ron Holland, maybe they'll fall, but I still feel like they'll be picked top 10 just because of, the archetype that they have and the skills that might be able to translate. So I think a player that lately is rising, I think it's Tajane Saloon. Just recently did a video on him. When I'm looking at him, he kind of gives me Michael Porter Jr. vibes. I kind of like how the fit would look, 6'9", 6'10" wing. I feel like it would look really good next to, Patrick Williams or DeMar or whoever you want to fit him next to. So I'm just thinking, maybe they go with that and pick someone like him, with a lot of high upside. They really have to do their due diligence in developing this dude if they were to pick someone like that. But if they do go wing, I really, really hope that they somehow get a second pick, like I previously stated. Maybe it's that Magic pick at 18. Maybe it's the Sixers pick at 16. But I really, really hope that they get a second pick, because getting a young big in this draft will be just as important, especially if you can do it around that, number 20 area. So let's just see what they do. But I think they'll go wing at number 11 just because of the talent at that position in this draft. And I think Tajane Saloon will be a very good, solid choice. They just have to make sure they develop him to his fullest potential. But let me know what you think. All right, peace.
Taking a wing at number, here's the thing, and I get it, this is a draft, and I've said it a lot of times. It's deep in wings, and it's deep in power forwards / centers. But don't, like, the position, I get it that per the mocks, but the thing is, and like I've said before, the talent level in this draft is so much parity between. I don't think that you have to worry. Like, you take whoever you have best available. That may end up being a wing, But I do think that if one of those power forwards, if the Bulls don't acquire another pick, like it's not necessarily, it's a reach per mocks, but mocks have to be there to judge things. I think there's also a higher value level put on wings than some of the power forwards and centers, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily less talent. And so don't let the mocks kind of deter you from that. This is a draft where there's a lot of even talent. Like I've said before many times, right? You can go anywhere. The same player in some mocks can be 6th. That player can be 19th in some mocks. So because of that, you just have to trust your own evaluation and how you see it. If the Bulls can get an additional pick, cool. But I think if anything, if you're trading like a Alex Caruso, Zach LaVine, you want to look towards that 2025 draft, in my opinion, because I think even a pick in the 20s in that draft would be a lottery pick in this draft. And so that's kind of how you have to look at that, in my opinion. But if the Bulls can get an additional pick and get a wing and a big, it is a weaker draft, but if that's how they have it evaluated, I would commend them for going out there and being aggressive. And you guys know, you saw when I covered it, Tajon Saloon is somebody that I really do see he could end up being the best player from this draft. I just don't know if the Bulls go that high potential route, or if they go something kind of more of need. But I guess we'll see here in a couple of months. All right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one is from Brian.
Hey, what's up, Hayes? I was just listening to a couple of your shows, and I agree with you on the DeMar DeRozan thing about people saying he's good for the young development of the young players, So, but to me, I still would keep DeMar DeRozan. He's not the problem of the team. The problem, we have a big man problem, really bad. We have a big man. DeMar DeRozan, a lot of the young players. I'm not trying to move them. Booch is a good player, but he doesn't fit our identity, not Chicago-style basketball. We that grit team. We need those type of players. DeMar DeRozan is not the problem. Alex Caruso is not the problem. The problem, we have a big man problem. A crash-the-board man problem, a shot-blocking man problem. They don't even have to score. We got enough score. We need some defense, some go-get-it-ass players, man. That's what we missing. And they keep looking over there for these stretch players and shit like that. We got enough of that shit. And develop the players that we got, the young players that we got. We're not even developing them right. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of young talent on the team. We don't play them. We don't even give them a fucking chance, bro. DeMar DeRozan is not the problem. We have a big man problem. But what's your thoughts on that?
All right, so I'm sorry. DeMar is part of the problem. There's no one player or position group that's part of the problem. You say that we need defense and things like that and grit. DeMar DeRozan provides no defense at all. And while his scoring is great and what he's able to do scoring-wise is great, I'm sorry, but he is part of the problem. Part of the problem. Not just the center plays, not just part of the problem. DeMar is part of the problem. Even what you say about, like I said before, but we say about mentoring the young players, the players that he literally has gone out to LA to work out with them, followed it up by having some of the worst career years that they've had. Io, and I'm not blaming that on DeMar, I'm just reviewing the thing. Io had his sophomore season was the worst season that he had. That was after going out and working with DeMar. Patrick Williams, after going to work out with DeMar. But Patrick Williams has been down overall, right? I'm not blaming that on DeMar by any stretch. So I get what people are saying in the theoretic thing that he offers. But again, you got to look at the cost of all of it. And on top of that, no, DeMar DeRozan is part of the problem. We can't abstain him. He's not the problem, but there is nobody who is just the problem with this team. And that's just where we are right now. That is why AK has to evaluate this team from top to bottom, and everything is on the table per his words, because everything is part of the problem right now. Team construction is part of the problem right now. It's all part of the problem, at least in my opinion. And we'll see how it shakes out, brother. All right, let's get into the next one. This one is from Corn.
Hey, what's the word, King? It's Corn, man. Play this one. I know you're going to play this one later, you know what I'm saying, because I'm late. I wanted to talk to you because this one, man, I want to talk about Lonzo, so let's get into Lonzo. I watched this doctor, Brian Studier, whatever, MD, whatever. And like you said, he got 2 repairs on his meniscus. He's walking around with somebody else's meniscus. Now, the interesting part of what I'm finding out who meniscus it is D'Angelo. If it's LiAngelo or his brother's meniscus, W fucking brother. I know he's still an athlete. Jello. I know he's still out here hooping, and you need your meniscus. You need it. And just to walk around, you need it. But for his brother to step up and do that, wonderful. Now, let's talk about Lonzo part of it. He said he'll be back game one. Can he be back game one? Absolutely. I believe it. I believe in him. I believe in the player that he is. Absolutely. Is he going to be Lonzo? Fuck no. Is he going to be the Lonzo? Let's just be real with ourselves. Is he going to be the Lonzo that we once saw? Fuck no, not even close. Probably a third of that, to be real. And that's the point of this whole issue. You know what I mean? I'm always going to be rooting for you, Lonzo. I'm always going to be rooting for Lonzo. It's time. Man, good luck to him. Maybe this is not cool. This is not cool to say. Hopefully he'll be playing in the Big Three or something. I don't see him playing in the NBA with this kind of injury, what the doctor was talking about. I don't see him coming back. Maybe, he'll play on the Big Three type level. And that is no disrespect to him. It is what it is. This is the knees is the knees. You can't blame what it is. You got two different surgeries on his knees. It's curtains for us to see peak Lonzo Ball. We're not going to see that Lonzo ever again. But like I said, man, shout out if this shit is true. I don't know if it is. Shout out to Jello, man. And I'm always going to be rooting for you, Lonzo. If you can't come back game one, and if you do, I'm going to be there rooting for you. But I'm already knowing what time it is. All right, Hayes, man. Love you, King. Blessings.
First of all, bro, you got to stop believing rumors, bro. Like Corn, I even Googled that. I saw that nowhere out on the internet. Corn, stop bringing your high thoughts and saying that that's what you're hearing. No, bro. THC told you that. That ain't nobody else said that. Corn be high, bro. That's my dude, man. But no, he has a cadaver meniscus, so it's not LiAngelo Ball's meniscus. That's not what it is. But yeah, Lonzo's return has a lot of doubt around it, a lot of doubt. And that is because of the severity of the issue, the type of injury on top of it, having the two different replacements between the meniscus and the cartilage replacement. It's a lot going on in Lonzo's knee. And so, like I said, in I think yesterday's episode or maybe the day before, is that the simple fact of the matter is that even if Lonzo does return, the level to which his return is at, with the years he has left on his contract, only one, it's not likely that he's going to be a Chicago Bull for long. It just isn't. We just gotta be clear on that. So, and we'll see where that ends up taking us and where that ends up taking him ultimately. Because, I hope Lonzo can defy the odds and make a return. But I don't want to see the Bulls be the experiment there unless he's willing to take the vet minimum. And even then, depending on what else we're doing with the money we got, that could even still be a huge risk, right? So we got to see where it's going to shake out, though, brother. But great voicemail, Corn, even though THC be talking to you, bro. All right, let's get into the next one. This one's from Ant.
What up, Hayes? It's your boy Ant, the big homie. I was just reading. Well, first of all, I looked up the Bulls' win percentage after Derrick Rose was traded. Bro, we only averaging 41 wins per season, which further led me down the rabbit hole. And I was looking at some old Jerry Reinsdorf quote about the Bulls. He loved baseball, and the Bulls is more like a business. And his exact quote was, he don't look at championships as the end goal. Yeah, he liked to win, but that's not the end goal. He said he likes to have a competitive team, which pretty much tells me that you just want to make money and you don't care about winning. Like, competitive team is cool, but that's not winning. You can be competitive and losing. He said he likes to have a competitive team who pretty much, if they make the playoffs and be competitive towards the end for the fans, that's what he thinks the fans want. And he is so disconnected from the Bulls fandom. I don't understand. How can you be an owner for this many years and be disconnected this long? I don't get it. His exact words was, he don't look at championships as the end goal. What? We out here paying all this money, going crazy with the ups and downs of this team, and the owner itself don't care if they win championships. I just found that interesting. And like you said, it's a business, and he treats it like a business. But to actually see the quotes that came out of that man's mouth, it's disheartening as a Bulls fan. Love the show. I'll rock with you on all platforms. Let me know what you think about this. Peace.
Listen, and I don't know I've been telling you guys that same exact quote for at least 2 years now. Jerry does not care. For the Bulls to be able to really become a championship team is going to have to come from the GM either drafting well, being aggressive, and just making smart moves, right? It's going to happen over time. The Bulls aren't going to be this Cinderella story that just all of a sudden, bam, we sign a star and we're off to the races. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be that for the Bulls. The Bulls are going to have to draft intelligently, incredibly well over years because Jerry Reinsdorf does not care. He does not care. The Bulls are a business for Jerry Reinsdorf, and that's been evident. And that is why, like, I get it. And it sucks to have that as part of your ownership group, but Jerry's very hands-off. So it comes down to then the GM, or in this case, the president of basketball operations in AK, just being smart with how he makes his moves to build a great team. And, he got to be better to do that, man. And the disconnected from the fan base, he don't give a damn. Jerry Reinsdorf does not care about it. He cares about the bottom dollar. It sucks, but that's the truth. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for the day. This one's from Q.
Hey, Hayes, it's me, Q. I know it's been a while since I've called, but I just finished watching your episode about what would it look like if we kept Zach. I just think at this point, I just think that there's no point in even speculating about that. I think that we need to move on from him. Not just because of that, the actual roster not working, but just because of the money. I think just because of the money, I think trading him and he wants to be traded as well, and trading him and letting him move on, and us and having a little bit more cap space with him gone, which we could use to pay DeMar the money that he's looking for, and we could use some of that money for other things. I just don't think that there's a point in even considering that. And if that does happen for long term and we keep him, it's just exhausting, in terms of what they're doing and what their plan is, and I think keeping him is just going to hinder any type of real progress. And then also, another comment that I wanted to say is, it seems like everybody's talking about with that 11th pick drafting a big man. Maybe I'm an outlier here, but I just don't think that we should draft a big man. I think that, quite frankly, what we really need is I think we need more of a small forward right now, on the perimeter, because that has good size and can defend well, because just all of the live games that I've been to at the UC, it seems like the easiest way for other teams to dismantle our defense is on the perimeter, and they just easily just break through the perimeter. And I think we need some more perimeter defense, and I think we just need we need a tall, lanky, small forward, that's kind of like Pat, but but I think that is just, quite frankly, that's a little bit better and has more potential. At this point, I think Pat can still play, but I just don't think that he is at the level.
Not trading Zach LaVine. Listen, I don't like the Bulls at this place. I think that they are focused on trading Zach, but we can't just assume that they're going to be able to trade Zach. I think you got to review what the market's telling you, and the Bulls also depends on how much of a loss, because right now they're going to take a loss regardless in trading Zach LaVine. How much of a loss do you want to take in trading him? He's not. They're not going to get another star-level talent back for Zach. You're just not at this point. And the Bulls they have come to that realization, and they are okay with that. At this point, then it's like, all right, then what do you use from the Zach LaVine trade to kind of propel your team going forward? Is it space? Is it you get a pick? Whatever it is, and that's where you got to look at. Now, as far as needing a small forward, I gotta disagree in the sense that what you said and what you laid out, we've done that 3 out of the last 4 years. Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips. We've drafted players that can either be power forwards or wings in this league. We need a rim protecting big. What you mentioned as far as the lack of defense and perimeter, guess what? If you get past, that's what we did with Joakim Noah here. If you do, we didn't have the best perimeter defense all the time there. We had times of having that, but if you got past that, we had a big who could protect the rim. That is why rim protection and rebounding is important, and that is why you hear center being a bigger need than small forward. Now, I've said before in this draft, wings and power forward types and center types are probably the most deep of the positions here in this draft, and they could go small forward, but I don't think that, maybe throwing another exact type of small forward that we kind of already have, we just need to see develop is the answer either. But we'll see. This is AK we're talking about. Anything's possible. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if AK does something crazy like draft a point guard. We'll see what happens, Q. But great voicemail there, brother. Thank you guys for tuning in, especially on a Sunday. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See Red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.